Well, don't talk about the slaughter and torture of women in Islam, because even though it's true, it might upset somebody. This seems to be the attitude of many on the left, which we're going to show you. First, let's introduce the great Robert Spencer, the man behind Jihad Watch. He joins us from New York. And let's just give a quick plug to your new book, Robert, because it's doing very well. What's it called?
It's called Did Muhammad Exist? An Inquiry into Islam's Obscure Origins.
Right.
It's a look at the historicity of the earliest texts of Islam. It shows that there really isn't any historical value to any of it at all. It's all a made-up tale for political purposes.
We like to be conciliatory. And in case you can't get that at stores, and frankly, apparently some stores are reluctant to carry it, the great thing about the internet, go to Amazon.com or Amazon.ca and you can pick up a copy. Now, let's have a look. We're going to show you a video here. What you need to know is this is a very long interview with a woman who has direct experience and vicarious experience through her relatives, close family, of women having their genitalia ripped apart when they're children and older in Egypt and other parts of the Islamic world, of honor killing, of murder and slaughter. It's a long interview. She outlines all of this. She read a very sophisticated piece for a respected magazine. And then the interviewer and then a guest, they jump on her and they're attacking her for being the messenger. Let's just see a small clip of that, please.
Egyptian society oppresses women. There is a hierarchy of oppression here, and I'm talking that oppression is misogyny.
Mona, I appreciate what you do. I would love it if you would just... I understand that you want to get your message across. It's an important message to get across. But if possible, nuances so not to give fuel fodder to people who simply hate Arabs and Muslims.
Now, that's just a very mild clip of what went on here. This was an academic telling her off for talking about this. And then the interviewer, this is MSNBC, which is I don't think particularly credible, but a large left-wing station. The interviewer attacker, it's a tag team of attacking this one for telling the truth. Robert, were you surprised by this?
I wasn't surprised, because this is the same thing, really, Michael, that happens to us all the time. We were just in Dearborn calling out the human rights abuses that are inherent in Islam in regard to its sanction of honor killing. And what happened? We got called bigots and haters. Mona El-Tahawy, she wrote this piece about women's rights in the Islamic world, and the same thing is happening to her.
Incredible. But, she is part of the Arab world. Her family, she have experienced this horror directly.
Yes. But see, the Islamic PR machine is so powerful. It's really incredible when you stop and think about it, how Orwellian it is, Michael, that these are human rights abuses that are obvious. And this is the only case in which you can call attention to human rights abuses and people don't say, oh, you're a defender of human rights. They say, you're a hater. And what's really ironic is that it would happen to Mona El-Tahawy, who has been a foremost voice among the defenders of Islam in the Arab world for years. And now she's seeing what happens if she steps out of line.
Yeah. And the academic criticizing her is a respected academic. But if she was in the Arab world, she wouldn't have that position. She certainly wouldn't be allowed to go on television with her head uncovered. There's a new Egyptian TV station, an all-women TV station, where everyone has to be completely covered. You can't see the face. Yeah. They must understand how hypocritical they're being.
Well, it's a very strange thing. It seems as if the fundamental rule is not to do anything that is negative toward Islam. And so all these human rights abuses that are inherent in Islamic law that treats women like commodities and sanctions genital mutilation and honor killing and so much more, they passed right by them. You're probably aware of Dalia Mogahed's piece in the Washington Post attacking Mona El-Tahawy for this same article. Dalia Mogahed is a very influential woman who has served as an advisor for Barack Obama on Arab and Islamic affairs. And she's extraordinarily influential and powerful. And the same thing is, in the Islamic world, it's hard to see that she would serve in these same kinds of positions. And yet she was saying the same things, that Mona was pandering to prejudice, that really you can't identify Islam as the source of these problems, although it's manifest that they're in the Quran, which even sanctions wife beating. And yet, if you don't talk about Islam, obviously these things will never be addressed and never be reformed.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is MSNBC. Rachel Maddow is on this station. She's a very aggressive feminist lesbian. I disagree with her much of the time, but she's no fool, and I think she has some sort of consistency and integrity. Would she and others at the station not say, hey, hold on a minute, guys? What this woman was saying was the absolute truth.
Well, I can't speak to her individually. I don't know her, but I can tell you that over the years at Jihad Watch, I have tracked many feminists sticking up for the oppression of women in the Islamic world. And it does seem as if multiculturalism as an idea trumps feminism. And so there's nothing that, that feminists ever do to speak out against human rights abuses in the Islamic world.
Is it getting any better? I mean, at one point I thought it was that people like yourself and Pam Geller and others were more empowered and becoming, or at least entering to a degree, the mainstream. But every time we take a step forward, we seem to take 2 steps back.
Well, it's the Islamic smear machine, Michael. Really, they have done a number on us, including you, on anybody who speaks out about these human rights issues. We get tarred as bigots, as racists, as haters. And then what's really worse is that the so-called conservative media, the media that is supposed to be on our side and sticking up for these things and standing up against the Islamic Jihad against the West, they tend to fall right in line. And they let the left set the narrative and decide who can be acceptable in the public discourse and who can't be. And that's really unconscionable. The cowardice on our own side.
I have to say, you mentioned Dearborn, and we were at a conference together that you're one of the organizers of, and thank you for that. The number of people who were from all over the states, including California and Florida, came to me and said, oh, I love your show. And I said, well, where do you watch it? And they said, well, on blogs and websites and YouTube. There's nothing like it in the US. I assumed that Fox News, for example, was covering this sort of area as well.
Well, look, I'd like to say that they were, but they're not. Fox News, just take the other day, the Ground Zero Mosque Imam Faisal Abdul Rauf, who's up to his eyeballs in connections to the Muslim Brotherhood and to all sorts of unsavory things, the Jihad Flotilla against Israel. He was on the board of one of the groups that financed it. So many things about him. And yet Bill O'Reilly had him on, fawned all over him, gave him such an incredibly favorable treatment, let him lie about Sharia and Islam and so on. Now, to his credit, Sean Hannity had Rauf on just the other night, and it was a very different story. Hannity asked him tough questions about how he blamed the U.S. for 9/11 and all these other statements that Rauf has made, put Rauf on the spot. That's the kind of thing that I would like to see from Fox every day, but unfortunately it's rare.
Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me at all with those 2 gentlemen. But listen, we will always have you on. It's always a great pleasure, and the feedback we get is vast. People love you, and they love the fact that you're given a platform. Thank you, my friend.
Michael, I much appreciate your courageous stand for these issues, very much, and you are singular.
Thank you. You take care.